I'm Lars.
Hello.
Okay, I'm Lars Isaacson. I'm a senior consultant with Prospect, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of you in the masterclasses and the action learning sets. On to Kirsty.
Hello, it's Kirsty Baxter, Assistant Director for Education Management here with Health Education Northwest.
Hello, it's Hazar Rashed, Project Manager at for the Education Management team at Health Education Northwest.
And the person who's missing from our end is our esteemed colleague, Gay Jackson. Well, she sends all the best wishes and no doubt will be in touch with you during the course of this intervention. So, in terms of what we're going to cover here, just two aspects really. One is for us to begin to connect as a cohort of individuals, and some of you will already know each other well, given some of your geography, and we'll get opportunity to meet others, through this process. And one of the things that definitely came out of the last two cohorts was the value of that. Well, part of what we'll cover today is to begin to think about, in order to get the best out of this programme, because this is a significant investment of your time, your effort, your organisational support, as it is for Health Education Northwest, is to begin to get it on a proper foot and to hopes and expectations and the ground rules that we want to see in play. So we've indicated this is the third cohort through, and what we hope will be achieved is that every organisation will have had the opportunity, certainly in the new structures within the Northwest, will have had the opportunity to send a colleague on this programme. So all organisations should be benefiting from this. Going third, you benefit from the two episodes that have been, two cohorts that have been before, and certainly Lars, will give us some sense of that as we go through. But in terms of what I think we want to just cover here today is just to, again, just re-emphasise the importance of the Build and Learning Excellence and Competency Framework, and that self-assessment process that hopefully colleagues have already started to work through. You've already, through the wonders of technology, got a sense of who's on the call, and one of the things that we hope will be achieved through the programme is how you use these sorts of tools yourself in future endeavours. But this programme, in order for it to be pitched at the appropriate level, needs to make sure it reflects your hopes and expectations, and also what we believe is the collective rules for engagement for colleagues on here. So we want to shape those with you during the call, and what I will be doing from time to time is trying to encourage colleagues to respond to any queries or any discussion points as we go through. In order for clarity, it'd just be helpful if we could speak one at a time. So I think if you let me introduce colleagues, and then we'll see how that goes. But we'll certainly make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to contribute as we go through. And then, crucially, we'll outline what is the indicative content of the programme, and if there's anything that you think is missing from that, then we'll get an early sight of that, and then that will be something that we can think about as we go through. Now, I suppose the first thing today is to note, many of the colleagues on this call, you've been doing this job already in some shape or form, in some cases, for many years, and it's a testimony to your resilience that you're still doing that in a significant and helpful way. But there is a new climate in terms of the importance of what we're trying to achieve in the development of the workforce. And there is also something about trying to achieve in the Northwest in everything we do, is that we're as best as we can be. And I'm taken by this little quote from, this was a consultant fireman who talks about, the leadership challenge for us now in our organisation is to be something more than average. Now, we have a great track record in the Northwest of innovation and development, but others are catching up with us, so we've got to keep ahead of the curve. And also the challenges of what we all got to face over the next 3 to 5 years will be very significant in their scale and impact. And L&D has to be part of that solution. And it will not be a solution if we have a quiet voice or we don't know how to engage. And crucially, part of the reason why we want BLaDE is to make sure that we have a common script for our learning and development function and to stretch what we're doing. And that leads us on nicely then to Kirsty, just to sort of, as the lead commissioner for this programme, just to outline just, the current context that we're all facing and why, as the marketing leaflets go, this is the right time for L&D to help make sure we make a really effective contribution. Kirsty.
Thanks, Mike. It's probably worth me just sort of going back a little bit, first of all, to 2006, when I was first appointed in the role that I'm in now, actually, and heading up a new function, which was education management. And education management is essentially about trying to make sure that our education in practice, as well as that takes place in higher education, is as best as it can be, and that we do that through both making sure that we have sufficient capacity and capability within the system to be teaching and supervising and assessing learning in practice, but also so that we have got a development of a learning organisation, a learning culture that is embedded throughout the existing workforce, as well as those that are actually training for their programme. And so over the sort of past 6 years, I guess, we've done a lot of work around trying to put some of the building blocks in place to deliver on that agenda. And I would probably include within that things like the clinical placement strategy and the infrastructure we have around that now with the placement managers and the education facilitators, what's gone on around the modernisation agenda with assistants and advanced practitioners, what we've tried to do around educational governance, interprofessional learning. And I think all of those pieces of work are what we need to be progressing and building on as we move forward over the next few years. And that's why this programme is such a valuable asset to the Northwest. You all know now, of course, that we're working within a different structure. We've got health education nationally as a new special health authority. We've got 13 local education and training boards, the Northwest one being the largest. And underpinning our Northwest LETB, we've got 3 sub-regional workforce and education groups referred to as LWEGs. And it is fundamental that those LWEGs are well informed as to what the needs are, what the intentions are, what the aspirations are of organisations and of learners and of the future workforce, as well as that of the existing workforce. And I see the L&D role as instrumental to that. You are the eyes and ears, essentially, of what is going on organisationally, culturally, in terms of learning and development. And we need to make sure that that is fed in so that we can build on this continuous improvement. Now, just moving on a little, I think in terms of context, it is ripe for us to be sort of doing this third programme, as Mike has said. I mean, the first 2 have proved to be very successful with participants, which spurred us on to do the third. But I think increasingly now we are, again, sort of more and more informed by what it is that's happening nationally. And when we started this programme, we didn't have the insights of the Francis report, Patients First and Foremost, the HEE mandate, the Education Outcomes Framework, all of which are absolutely critical both to the learning and development lead role, but also to this programme in terms of what it is we're trying to do. And of course, to sort of round up the philosophy here, I guess, it's about saying that if we secure excellent education at the same time as widening participation, we produce a capable and a more diverse workforce. And that workforce should be flexible as to how healthcare is delivered, receptive to research and innovation, and who live the NHS values in their everyday work. Now, if we manage to achieve all of that, which is what the Education Outcomes Framework is aiming for, the outcome has to be excellent healthcare and health improvement. And that's at the end of the day why we're all here. Putting that in context, we've now delivered our first draft of a 5-year workforce skills and development strategy. And that strategy has been informed very much by our stakeholders at events previously, and in fact now is due for a refresh in light of the HEE mandate particularly, but also in relation to the local workforce plan, which we're currently in the process of analysing and aggregating. So there will be a refresh coming out probably later autumn time. But at the moment, it's probably important for me to flag the 4 core priorities that 5-year strategy has highlighted. And for those of you that haven't got the presentation up in front of you at all, I'll just run through them quickly. The first transformational priority that the LETB wants to see a focus on is to address the impact of the Francis Report and patient safety. And this is as much about, addressing what it is we need to do by virtue of the mandate with things, healthcare assistant progression, values and behaviours, assessment on entry to programme. It's as much about that as it is about how are we going to manage the safety of patients when we've got staff working 24/7 in some areas where they haven't been able to do that before. So it is a much broader agenda that we need to be getting into there. The second one around managing the economic environment by supporting skill mix changes and developing service improvement skills. I think a lot of this does build on, principles of modernisation, and we've seen that now across medical careers, healthcare science careers, AHPs, and I'm quite sure, well I know, Health Education England have got some quite interesting ideas as to how they might want to see the workforce develop and evolve over the future years. And this is quite often about looking at new breeds of workforce, not just tweaking or altering a little bit at what it is we do now. The third point about supporting and developing transformational change to the whole workforce, including primary care, and to reflect changes in services in the North West. You'll know as well as I do, there are a number of significant reconfigurations planned across the North West at the moment. Generally, sort of within each of the sub-regional areas. Most of you are probably familiar with the term Healthier Together, which is the brand name for the reorganisation in Greater Manchester. And we have a key role in delivering the workforce to deliver that agenda, and fundamentally trying to make the shift from staff in existing sort of secondary care, moving more into primary and indeed community care, and understanding the difference between the two. And that is both going to be a sort of physical shift in terms of how do we get the workforce in the right numbers in front of patients so that we can keep them out of hospital, but also that cultural change when people won't perhaps see secondary care as the sexy end of where we want to be as opposed to in the community. So there's a great deal of work to be done there. And then the final point around aligning ourselves to the NHS England mandate and the Public Health Outcomes Framework, and that of course is to make sure that we're delivering on our sort of business continuity really around dementia, health visiting, GP expansion, all of those work streams, but also looking to what we can do to build up the community-facing workforce around public health interventions and making that part and parcel of everybody's core training in healthcare. So I think I probably want to leave it there, if that's okay. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think the learning and development community are integral and essential to this agenda, and we need to make sure that we are as robust in that and collective in that, if you like, to have the impact that we need to be having. And I hope that programme or this programme delivers that for you.
Thanks, Kirsty. Kirsty can't stay the whole session, but before she goes, I'm just going to do a quick round robin just to see if there's any clarification on any of the issues that colleagues or any points that Kirsty has made. So I'll just a quick round robin just to get a sense. Steve from Liverpool Heart and Chest, any comments or queries on what Kirsty says?
No, nothing to add from me, mate.
Okay. Jane from Cheshire Wirral Partnership?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. How about up in Blackpool, Alex?
Hi, no, nothing, thank you.
Okay. And just coming down to across the Pennines, Fiona?
No, clear.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Lovely. Melissa, anyone who I haven't called, does anyone want to ask Kirsty a question before I let her go?
No, that was really clear.
No.
No, that's fine with me.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsty.
And colleagues will just see another supporting slide, just building on the priorities that Kirsty set out, and those have been captured into a set of areas that I think will likely see a range of programs of work coming through. Now, some of these we know colleagues will already be leading in organisations, but it's important to be aware of those. Can I just check? Did everyone see the strategic outline case that was presented and have had the opportunity to feed back? Michelle, if I go to you in Clatterbridge, did you see the initial 5-year plan?
I haven't, no, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's there'll be a reason why I'm asking that shortly. And Christine, how about yourself? Did you see the strategic outline case?
No, sorry.
No, okay. And how about Peter in 5 boroughs?
Hi, Mike. No, sorry, I haven't seen it either.
Okay. So you know what I'm going to say now, don't you? This going back to the case that Fiona Kirsty said about informing what the direction should be. That development out, as Kirsty said, it will be refreshed. But I think certainly before the cohort meeting, your first session, it'd be really important for colleagues to make sure that they've seen that, and one, make sure that their organisations have responded in some kind of way, and then as an individual L&D team begin to think, what does this mean for us, and certainly what we'll do as an action for us is to make sure that that gets sent out to everyone following the session. Okay?
Thank you.
Right, so competency framework. Now, this has been out for a little bit of time, and what I would say is it's probably of its most value now, given some of the issues that Kirsty has actually just said. So now, one of the things that we're asking the colleagues on the call before you go to your first session is that you've reviewed the competency framework and you've started the self process around this development. Now, can I just check where colleagues are with us? And we won't be able to go into detail here in terms of the where everyone's at, but in terms of beginning this self-assessment and getting yourselves in a position to think about what it is that you'll need to do as an organisation. Can I just check whether colleagues have seen this in any detail? So Tracy, if I go to you in Lancashire Care.
Yes, Mike, I've seen the self-assessment and partly completed some of the sections, but obviously need to go back into more detail to complete that as we start the programme.
Great, okay. And can I just ask, Tracy, from what you've seen and from what you've started doing. Is that something, is it clear what you need to do and how?
Definitely, yeah. Jackie Hayes, my colleagues, she attended, I'm not sure whether it was Cohort 1 or Cohort 2, and she's obviously filled the self-assessment from her point of view, but what I want to do is get our heads together and complete it from my perspective as well and see whether we match up or where there's differences. So, yeah, it's quite a clear document from my point of view. I've no questions in terms of completing that. Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
Okay, great. And how about yourself, Karen? Have you managed to look at this yet?
Yes.
Any observations?
With the senior team, we've looked at the self-assessment framework and we've done an initial where we think we're at, but I just haven't completed the action, the bit at the end, because I felt I needed a bit more time to think about that before I complete what actions. I've got some ideas, but not completed it.
Okay, no, that's great. And Janet, how about yourself down in Mercycare?
Yeah, I've completed it. Obviously, the standards within, and I suppose we piloted it the first time round as part of that, so it was quite familiar to me. We've still got a lot of work to do. We've got a new director of workforce, and obviously is having a whole new look at it with fresh eyes. So, and out of that, we're hoping to have a much clearer strategy. We've had one in draft, which is probably a little bit out of date now. So we know there's a big agenda for us to actually get to grips with, and a huge OD one as well. So
great, okay. And Vanessa, just finally with yourself, is this something you've come across yourself yet in your role?
It isn't. I've spent some time, because I'm part of the OD team, so I've spent time with the senior team to look at this document, and we've completed it, but I'm pretty much at the same stage as one of the other trusts around the actions, just need a bit of further thought in terms of what we want to achieve, etc. But, I mean, in terms of seeing this document for the first time, it was really self-explanatory. It was good to kind of take stock of where we're at and where we need to go.
Great, okay. Now, one of the key things for, L&D as a function is, because some colleagues would say we're likely to see more assurance as we go forward and more expectations about quality assurance, being applied. And there's something about, if we wait for that to happen and we don't embrace it ourselves as something that we work towards now, then we're going to be, wrong-footed. And one of the things that was, evident when we were trying to pull these competencies together is to set out an expectation of both the level and the contribution that L&D can make. So would really, encourage engagement with it. I was with one trust recently for something else, and then I think there's something about this is a start, and we very much hope yourselves and your organisations will actually be exceeding this. But this gives us a common threshold at which we can see, as a collective sense of organisation, where we're at. So that's great, going through that. Okay, well, I'm going to shut up and hand over to Lars, who's just going to give us a quick overview as to the expectations of the programme. So, Lars.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. You should have received the overview of the programme, which outlines sort of dates and the outcomes of each masterclass, but also a link into the competency framework that we've been talking about. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look at that, and you may have heard from colleagues as well about some of the programme content. So what we're very much wanting to do in the programme, and what's been evidenced by the previous two cohorts, is that we're really tying up with the competencies that are in the self-assessment, but also responding at the same time to the changing picture in your environment. So we've just had the update from Kirsty, and there's lots of things that have happened even since the last cohort that we need to be bringing in and responding to. But I'm interested to hear, with you guys coming into this, you know, we're going to get together on the 18th, which is not far ahead. You know, what are your first sort of views, comments, feedback on what you've seen so far in terms of the content? Any questions at all?
Let's do a round robin just to collect people through. Stephen, do you want to respond at all to Lars's query?
No, it's just exactly, you know, this is really going to help us deliver on some of the main things that we need to deliver on over the next year or two, so really excited to be part of the programme.
Great, okay. Alex in Blackpool, any thoughts?
Hi, yeah, especially the first one when we meet on the 18th is up my street what I need for my development. So personally, great, yeah.
Brilliant, okay. Michelle?
Hi, yes, I'm looking forward to starting the programme. I'm fairly new to the NHS, I've only been in post 5 months, and I'm starting pretty much from scratch for the L&D function here at Clatterbridge. The programme looks as if it's going to give me the starting point really to get things up and running here, and give me some structure, so I'm really looking forward to making some networks as well, so that I get to know more people in the NHS environment.
Great. I think just to make a comment on that, that's a really important point, that's one of the things that previous participants have picked up as a real plus on this, apart from the content and the action learning sets and so forth, is the professional networking that you get and the support that you get even through that period that you're on the programme and beyond. So I'd really encourage everybody to go in with that attitude that, you know, a lot of the knowledge and expertise is going to be input to you, but actually you're holding a lot of the expertise yourselves. This is giving you opportunity to share that with others and you know, give and take from what you find in the room. So really, really important aspect to this.
Lars, can I just ask, given the 2 cohorts that we've had and where we started with the initial outline programme, what's the experience been in terms of, have you had to tweak that at all in order to meet individual needs?
I think in terms of the programme, all along, we do respond to what's in the room, and we do try and gear that towards a sort of natural flow of what the interests are in the community that sort of is being established. I think in terms of the general content areas, they've been kept the same. I think the thing that has changed is that the programme outline has changed so that it's less compacted, the programme, this time round than it was previously. The feedback was that actually a lot of things came too close, and the action learning sets were too close at the beginning of the programme as well. So all of that is spaced out a lot more. So the sort of processing for yourself in terms of the learning should be more tolerable than it has been for the previous cohort. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whether it feels like it's been unpacked, given what the schedule looked like, but just to sort of reflect back, some colleagues did think, you know, it was incredibly valuable what was being you know, raised and discussed, and was very enriching. There was an expectation as part of the programme to submit some kind a report on some kind of aspect that you want to look in depth, and it'd be true to say that I think some of those were developed, but perhaps not developed to where they might need to be. We're hoping that that will be slightly different, you know, this time round. But in terms of the general overview of the programme, the topics that look to be of interest, you're benefiting from 2 cohorts going through, you know, twice. If you haven't asked for fundamental change, largely as Lars has just said, it's mainly been around the process. Okay.
So are there anybody else who's got any burning questions around the content at all?
No.
Nope. No.
Note about the action learning steps. We will do action learning steps, but we'll discuss that when we get together on the 18th. there are some themes coming out of your the assessment that we have come in. This is not the place to discuss it, but we'll do that on the 18th, so you've got some input into what is going to be most useful to you to work on. Indeed, the case study outcomes is tied into all of that that Mike has just talked about.
Lovely. Okay, so we've set up the reason why we're doing this. We've indicated the overview of the programme, and we've linked it in with the competency framework. So now just beginning to get sense your contribution as participants in the programme. And I think we would set this in four key principles, and hopefully you will share these. As Lars has already said, the experience from the group, already here is enormous. Our challenge is sometimes capturing it and reflecting it back and looking for, similarities. But one of the things that we would very much, see as being the approach of the programme is one of this co-production and shared responsibility. It will be successful given the input that you individually put in and what is achieved collectively. And in that same sense, that's what we would ask of when we're trying to engineer good learning for others. It's what we should expect of ourselves. I think one of the other things which is key, and again, there will be approaches and tools shared during the programme, is learning development itself has to be its own excellence model. Now, I'll just say to you, I was in, for another piece of work, national work, and I was dealing with some people who were commenting on their L&D functions. And a number of them were actually saying, we're not sure what it is that L&D contributes. We know that the teams, we know what that their resource to support, but we're not actually sure of their approach. And then there were some who were actually critical of some of the approaches being used. Now, thankfully, none of what was being shared there resonates with any of my experience of what I know of colleagues in the Northwest. There is that sense, and this is why the BLaDE competency framework is so important. We are our own models in how we go about this, so we need to be the best we can.
Okay. Can I make a point about that? One of the areas is the use of technology.
Yes.
And we all, although Mike is a great example of using technology frequently and an excellent tutor on using this sort of forum, we are using the Moodle platform. Some of you might be used to either working on or learning from technology platforms. I think it's one of the areas where you probably just need to be thinking, okay, I'm going to commit to doing this. And even if it feels a little bit unusual, it's one of the areas where we do know that technology will be able to drive out efficiencies and give a more flexible learning experience to people. So it's one of the areas where I would say to you already now, kind of just accept it and say, okay, I'm going to be trying to perhaps in some areas stretch here in terms of taking on, communicating online. You're going to get all your communication, your downloads of materials is going to be happening online. You might have started having discussions online. If you've got a question, you can post it online. Think about content that you might be able to input as well, etc., etc. So it's one of the areas. We will have a session on use of technology in learning with Phil Aspen, who's an expert who will come in and join you for part of one of the master classes. This is an area where, apart from other behaviours, it's something where do take a chance to be pushing on the sort of use of technology area. And the other thing I would just up to now say in terms of co-production and shared responsibility is that you're not feeling the stretch through this program. You need to take responsibility for coming to me or colleagues or whatever to say, well, why am I not feeling stretched in this? Because you should do that as you come into this. So it's one of the areas, just check, am I actually feeling stretched in this, and is it challenging me? Not. You've got a responsibility here to put your hand up.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot. And you'll be glad to know, folks, you know, when we talk about technologies and learning, we are not talking about stat-manned e-learning at all. This is about, you know, the richness of what can be achieved when we apply and use those technologies in a structured way, and that will be modelled through, you know, the same programme. The final two bits, we know we have to build teams for the future, and one of the things that L&D has sometimes suffered from, and you know, colleagues, you know, it might resonate, is that sometimes you know, the team isn't purposefully developed. It may take on you know, colleagues from other areas, you know, for a whole host of reasons. But you know, in the same way that we have to, you know, plan for the future of our workforce, we also have to plan for the future of those who lead this type of function and make sure that they're equipped. That's the legacy that we need to offer each other. And then the final bit is this personal reflection and development. There will be a lot of that, as Lars has said. Certainly to the feedback we've had on the last two cohorts is there was stretch. And in some ways, I think people were much more surprised at how stretched they were, given that some of these things you might be saying, well, you know, we're already doing a lot of this. Yes, I think we are in many different ways, but the way in which you've been asked to think about it and to think about how we do it across and with each other, that's where some of that stretch will come through. So those programme principles are what we would ask you to reflect in your engagement and, you know, be good models for that. So just moving on then towards probably the crux really of today, in order to set off the session on the 18th well. What we'd just like to do is get a sense of, now you've got the information about the programme, now you've got a sense of the context, what your hopes and expectations are, and from your point of view, what you think some of the ground rules that, as a cohort, you want to allude to. So what I'd just like you to think about just for 1 minute, and I'm going to come round you know, to you on this, is, are there any specific ground rules that you think are important to note for application as we go forward in this cohort? So I'll just leave you for 30 seconds, and then we'll do a round robin. Okay, I'm going to do a little start then. So Christine, any specific ground rules that you think you want to make sure are applied to this programme?
I think certainly to share our learning and good practice. So, I mean, I feel relatively junior to the rest of you, to be honest, in my role. So I've got a lot to learn, and the fact that the programme is so well structured, I think it's going to be really helpful to me. And I'd also really like to learn how other organisations are implementing the learning through the programme.
Okay. So the key one from that is share all learning in an open and positive way.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Fiona.
Hi. I think we all had to sign up to commit to it, but I think there's something about commitment and engagement through the process. So I'd like to, I suppose, reinforce that I'm personally very committed to learning and engaging with the process, and I think it's an important thing that we can learn much more if we're all coming from that same place.
Absolutely. And some of the experience on the action learner sets, I think, for the last two, some of those did, I think, suffer a little, but where there was full participation, it was actually, you know, very supportive. So there is something about really making sure that you contribute and stay the course with this. Yeah. There's both
while in the room, but also turning up on the day. So you will have had all the dates for your diaries, including the right up to the end for these action learning sets. And it's really important to ensure that you are prioritizing that and making sure you also back at the ranch you get clear with your sponsors and other stakeholders that you need to square this off with, that these are, you know, not for changing.
Jane, any ground rules for yourself?
I think you mentioned it as part of one of the first comments about openness. So I think it is about everybody coming to the sessions and being confident of being able to be open. But I think it's also recognising if there's things to share that you feel confident enough to be able to share, you know, anecdotes or stories or what have you, and know that there's some confidentiality as well, I think, within the room. So it's that balance between how much of openness but how much is shared as well.
Absolutely.
Anything else that's required for that openness apart from confidentiality, do you think?
I think an element of trust, that you've got everybody there, sort of that you've built a rapport and you feel confident enough to be able to be open with people, but and time will tell, I suppose, after the first session when we've got all the group together.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for that. So this will be captured as a slide that we'll be playing back to you at the end. So you should recognise all these words once you've completed. Karen, anything for yourself?
I was going to say the same as Jane about there might be certain things we want to share that we've maybe found difficult within our own organisations, but at the same time a recognition that, you know, some of that might be in confidence within the action learning set. I think the facilitator's quite key really in action learning, because there's always going to be some people that maybe do have more experience or are more vocal, but so it's giving opportunity for everyone to feel that they can contribute and not feel overwhelmed perhaps by others who may have more experience.
Yeah, so making sure we you know, either give opportunity or indeed sometimes pull everybody in that's in the room. And also I was very impressed with the professionalism of many participants in the previous cohorts about this point about sharing things that may well be sensitive, and indeed you might not be able to share in the organisation. But I also recognise that you know, hopefully sometimes that work and we can engender that. But I think some of the other principles about being open and committing is important. But there was a real high sense of professionalism, and I would expect you know, that could be brought in here as well if people want to do that.
Okay. That's great. Thanks, Karen. So we've got that captured as opportunity for all, and the role of the facilitator in making sure there's equal voice. Michelle, any observation for yourself?
Oh, it's getting harder to think of things now. Probably building on what Karen just said with the action learning set is that willingness to embrace different ideas, I suppose, and be non-judgmental when you're sitting there and discussing things. Sometimes if you've been doing something the same way forever, it can be hard, can't it, to take on board fresh ideas or try different ways. So I don't know how you'd summarise that.
Well, I think you did it really well yourself. The willingness to learn and being non-judgmental. I think that you're really helpful, Michelle. Peter, anything you want to add to ground rules?
No, I think it's just the openness, which I know has already been mentioned. Certainly, that's something that openness in networking. That's something I found very useful in the time I've been in post. I think we can all learn an awful lot from one another and each other's organisations. So I think it is important to come with that commitment to share ideas and information.
Yeah. Okay, that's great, Peter. Stephen, any thoughts for yourself?
Probably just building on the shared learning really, Mike, and probably when we get to the action planning stage and taking services forward, about looking about how we can maybe work in partnership on some of the areas that we've identified, for efficiency really, and and support each other.
And I mean, great. I mean, if one of the outcomes of this programme was that recognition of what can we do together better and what's our common agenda, that would be fantastic. So would really echo that statement. Tracy, anything you want to add?
Nothing really new that nobody else has said. The things that I've scribbled down on my pad have already been mentioned in terms of respect and openness, confidentiality and support. I suppose from myself, it's being accountable, the accountability side of things. I've signed up to the programme, so for me, I am now accountable to take on that challenge and be open to new ideas and building up partnership working. So it's basically everything everybody else has said, I suppose, Mark, from my point of view. Yeah.
All right. Many thanks for that, Tracy. So, but just for completeness, I'll just offer them other colleagues who haven't responded an opportunity. So, Vanessa, is there anything you want to add to anything you've already heard?
I think for me it's about maximising the opportunities that are available for linking into other areas. So I'm working with the OD team at the moment, but are working on engagement, and engagement can have a fundamental role to play in how we deliver L&D for the future. So it's about using that expertise, being open-minded and utilising approaches that, so it's about maximising that really.
Okay, great. Okay, pick that up. Hayley, any?
For me personally, no, I think it's all been covered really, but really just to second some people's views around participating and being present at the training, and we all have very sort of busy diaries, and sometimes we can commit the time, but then often we can be distracted, and also looking for where we can work in partnership and collaboratively with local partners to deliver initiatives as well.
Great, okay, that's great. And Janice?
Well, obviously, what most people have said, goes without saying, and I suppose that sort of working and sharing is really important. I think we've been able to demonstrate the mental health trusts in the Northwest, how successful that can be with some of the work we've been doing around the e-learning development. So there's almost like there is proof in the pudding really, in that we've been doing some of that. So I do know that it works. So I think if we can take that forward and build on that even wider, that would be fantastic for me.
Great. Okay, so that opportunities for shared partnership and agenda going through. And finally, not least, Alex.
Do you know, everybody said exactly what I was going to say.
Well, fancy that, Alex. Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, we've started building this up, so we'll play that back, and Lars and the team will, great stuff. Present that back at the opening session, and then we live by that, and then moving on to the next bit. Just go through. Okay. Right. Lars has already said, if you don't feel stretched by this, then what's the point, and what's the value? And Kirsty's also given that message that we see this as being important. And one of the challenges in developing the programme, given one, the richness of experience across the area, and also the preparing for the future, was making sure it is being pitched at the right level. But you yourselves will have an idea on completion of the course of whether this has been a valuable thing for you to attend. And what we'd just like to get a sense of, and again, I'll just do it in a round robin, is what will be your measure of success on completion of this programme? And we want to use that as hopefully a shared sense of outcomes, for all. I'm going to do it in reverse order now.
I guess the other way to access that is also to think, you know, if you're a year ahead after completing the program, you know, and you think, right, okay, so I'm coming out of the end of the program, I'm going to be doing X, Y, Z, and you get to after that period of time, you know, what might it have helped you do, etc. So,
so personal success and/or what will you be doing differently, or you hope you will be doing differently as a result of this program? What impact are you looking for to make sure that we get it at the right impact? So, Janet, if I go to you first.
I suppose a real learning need for me is the exposure to high-level thinking and strategy development. So I think for me, if I am able to do those and be involved in those, would be a real measure of success for me.
So that ability to shape and inform strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. At board level. Yeah.
Okay. At board level. Okay. Hayley.
I think for me, it's about having the opportunity to learn new ideas and concepts that really challenge some of the current L&D practice, and really challenge, make sure that it's properly aligned to the future business of the organisation. And I suppose really for the proof of being the pudding is that we've got an L&D function that properly supports and underpins the organisation in the direction of travel.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that will be a very tangible one, wouldn't it? And to be recognisable beyond your L&D board, that will be the acid test of that one. So that's a great one. Vanessa.
For me, it's about learning a new set of tools and techniques to demonstrate that we are a value-adding function, and I suppose it's applying those really. So 12 months from now, it's are we applying those different tools and techniques?
Okay, so applying tools.
So the reason why we're not all responding to that, we're busily writing it down.
And again, you know, there are definite tools being shared on the programme, and different tools that people hadn't thought about before. The challenge there, Vanessa, is they might sound good and okay in the context when you hear about them, but like anything, actually using them in practice and staying with them will be its own challenge in itself. So just be open to that. Tracy, any hopes and expectations for yourself?
For me, it's about raising the profile of our L&D function at a more strategic level. So we need to work more strategically and get our voice at the exec management team level, because I don't believe we do at the moment. And in terms of measurement, I guess for me, it's being a real integral and aligning to the business networks and looking at the business plans and being a real part of the business planning process.
Yeah. So your business unit will be coming to you saying, we've got these needs, how are you going to help us deliver them? And I come to you because I know you can and will.
Yes. In the past, we've been very reactive, and it's getting in there and being more proactive, but being at a more strategic level and really showing our return on investment and the value-added stuff that I'm hoping to get from the programme,
I was going to say, Mag, we're hoping that they you know, actually, they wouldn't have to come, you know, participants on the plate would already be there with them, you know.
Exactly. Okay, that's great. So, Tracy, so we've got that logged down. Stephen.
I'd certainly echo the fact, Mike, that I'd like to be seeing our L&D function, you know, more clearly aligned to the strategic and business objectives. But probably, you know, more specifically for me, I'd like to be in a position that all the learning and education that we provide here in the Trust, certainly when we get into evaluation, does start to see real improvements, you know, in patient care and improvements in services. So probably the evaluation processes that we have here in the Trust.
And, you know, one of the mandates for Health Education England is to show a more direct link between education and training and improvements in services. And colleagues on this call will know that, you know, sometimes that is a very tenuous link. The evidence, you know, for that is challenging. But in part, that's been because, one, we've sometimes not always set up educational programs with the right things to measure and to explore, and two, we've not agreed those sorts of measures with other stakeholders who would have a view of whether they're having that impact. But absolutely, Steve, I agree with you. That will be one of the hallmarks of the new architecture going forward, a much more clear line of sight between any training and any impact.
Yeah. The master classes that are sitting in the middle of the program are going to play to that theme absolutely in depth, which is, you know, everybody that's been on previously that have had that focus have found that extremely useful, as everybody else has as well, but particularly those that have wanted to fly with that have been able to absolutely build on that, you know, on the day after.
Okay, that's great. I'm just in a quick time check. It's 11:12, and we started just after 11:15. I think we are moving to a you know, close shortly. Be about another 5-10 minutes. So colleagues, can just bear with us. That would be great. Particularly while we finish this particular part. Michelle, is there anything you would like to add to?
I'm looking at, I've inherited more of a training admin function at the moment. That's how we're seeing in this organisation. So my expectation is in the next 12 months, I want to move us towards becoming the strategic business partner that we should be, which we're currently not.
Okay.
So it's sort of changing the profile and the credibility and the visibility of the team across the organisation.
Yeah, okay. That's great. So that builds on some that's already been mentioned, so that's great. Jane?
Yeah, a couple of things really. One, I think, being to reinvigorate my approach to learning and development to meet the challenges. I wrote down reinvigorate and reignite, and it's not to say I'm not already invigorated and ignited, but I think it is taking on board that networking and sharing aspect. And I think looking at the content of the programme, it does look really exciting. So I hope by the end of it, I would still be, you know, itching to get on with various different bits and pieces. But I think the main one for me is about the impact. So measuring, being able to effectively, I think, measure the impact of learning and development activity and what it means to the business, and building on what you said there previously.
Okay.
I do think there's a really important point that you brought out here, which is about recognising that sometimes we just aren't ignited actually, and there is an element of, you know, energy levels and the vision can go at times, particularly when, you know, really challenging environment. And over the course of the program, you know, you will be, you know, feeling things are really going well, at other times it's, where am I heading with this? And what I've seen in both the action learning sets, the professional networking and so forth, is that people being on the program have actually felt that, you know, they've been able to piece things together, maybe, you know, over the course of the program, but actually sometimes challenge, well, actually, is that, you know, is that good enough? And then, so you're going to feel a natural up and down through the program, but it is, if we get it right, with your help, it is a very supportive environment, and it's helped people, I guess, go through some of the challenges quicker and better sometimes. So yeah, for some people it has been a kind of renewal of commitment to what they're doing and where they are in many ways.
And this really echoes, I think, one of the reasons for the programme in the first place. This is your headspace in a busy day where, you know, you have to take that time to understand, you know, what you're trying to achieve, and how you know, with the resources that you have, you know, good, bad and indifferent, how you can shape those in a way that can move you on. So it's really helpful, that, Jane, so thank you for that. Karen?
Hi, yes. I think from a personal point of view, how I measure success is if I feel personally that my confidence levels have been increased, particularly in relation to how I can influence the directors and executive team. So I'm not saying I don't do that now, but perhaps I don't do it as well as I should be able to. And I'll give one example is the requirements for an annual education and training plan, which is signed off at board level, because there's going to be much more challenges in terms of the finances we have to spend to be able to sustain, you know, some of what we're doing very well at the moment. How as a trust want to prioritise what we spend on what? So that, I think for me, a measure of success is if I'm feeling more confident, able to influence, and even just able to get acknowledgement that yes, this is something that we need.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, you've hit the nail on the head. One of the challenges going forward is L&D can't be about everything to a, you know, thin level. It will have to prioritise and transform, but that will be through a process of, you know, prioritisation, negotiation and hard decisions. But coming back to what everyone has said, what is the key alignment for our organisations? And it will require, in some cases, brave decisions, particularly about, you know, resources. And one of the other comments on I think we should just note, I think we may be going back to everything is up for review. You know, whether that's programs at Northwest level, you know, just what are they achieving and where is the best use of resource, and that's got to be played out at every level, you know, that we engage with. So a really helpful point there, Karen. Fiona, anything for yourself?
I think very similar to what lots of people have said already. I was thinking on a very practical level, information. I would have developed and agreed KPIs for the L&D function, but that was also about then being able to show the value, which would enable us to have better conversations around how we support and then how we engage in and inform strategy at board level. So I think there's something around the practical operational, making sure your department's as good as it could be or your service as good as it could be, and then how do we really show that we are a valuable member of the organisation.
Okay. So those impact measures, both internally and external presentation, the key on that. Yep. Okay. Christine.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd like to, at the end of this programme, to be able to implement a learning and development strategy. We've gone through a big change in our department, so we haven't actually got a learning and development manager at the moment, and it doesn't look like that role is going to be replaced. So my job's really grown, so there's a lot for me to learn. And I think this course will help me to gain some credibility within the learning and development and within the trust. And I'd like to learn some influencing skills to be able to influence upwards. And then also some new techniques around evaluating the function as a whole. In the past, I've been involved in evaluating individual learning programs, but I think I need to think a lot more strategically, and that would help me then to sort of present findings back to, you know, at board level, which is what I think I'm going to be expected to do more of.
Okay, great. And again, a whole, you know, evaluation as a competency is a hallmark for anyone involved in learning and development. Now, I think last but not least, Peter, I don't think I've come to you yet, have I?
No. I think for me, it's about, again, it's a confidence thing. It's about being more confident to be able to challenge maybe some of the perceptions about L&D which exist in the organisation. You know, raising our profile, but also maybe, I think someone mentioned earlier about being more proactive in our approach rather than being used as a reactive organisation, really. So it's developing that confidence for me personally. But something else I'm very keen on is looking at ways that we can actually demonstrate the quality of what we do, the effectiveness of what we do, whether it's in terms of patient safety or, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Okay. Again, you know, two really helpful points there, Peter, which builds on. Okay, can I just check? I think I've been round everyone. Is anyone not had an opportunity to comment here?
Me, Alex, at Blackpool.
Oh, sorry, Alex. Right.
It was at the very end last time.
Yeah, go on.
Obviously, everyone said what I was going to say again, but when I thought about it beforehand, I was thinking it from a Myers-Briggs perspective. For me, my measure would be to be more T than F, because I'm very F.
Right.
So I'm very people-focused and not necessarily all the strategy, business, processes and so on. So that's how I would measure myself at the end.
Okay, right. So you'd see, so your any assessments at an individual level, you would hope will be changed in some way, whether that's Myers-Briggs or.
Well, I think maybe what you're saying is that you're able to quite deliberately behave F in certain contexts and situations when it's required. I guess what we all know that, you know, our sort of fundamental preferences don't necessarily change that quickly in terms of their fundamentals, but certainly being able to be more confident and comfortable about taking on that sort of role and moving into that space. That's attainable. Is that what you meant, isn't it? Yeah. Great.
Because, you know, actually,
I'm not guaranteeing that we're going to change the outcome of actual psychometrics.
No. You know, the other thing here is we don't want to change everyone on this course because you already bring, you know, a tremendous knowledge, skill, and experience. But as you say, it's about we always privilege those parts that we're comfortable with, that we know of. Part of this, and this is the stretch that Lars was referring to, is that we are actually more confident in being able to respond into those other areas. Okay, last 2 minutes. Those outcomes, I think, we'll success measures, again, we're capturing them as we go through. We'll reflect back, and you'll have an opportunity to revisit those at the deliberate point.
And just to be, this is within the scope of the programme. You know, with what we've set up and what we intend to do, we should hopefully be able to meet, you know, everybody's outcomes here. There's nothing anybody's said that is not exactly intended within the programme.
Exactly.
So great stuff.
Okay. So last 2 minutes. From your experience, is there anything that this programme does need to avoid, is, you know, in order for it to be, you know, successful and to hit the mark? Now, I'll just leave that open random. So, you know, is there anything, you know, anyone wants to share with us about, you know, please don't do ... Any thoughts?
I've got one. It's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. I suppose with action learning sets, perhaps there's potential that things could maybe get a little bit morose and maybe could become a moaning session if not careful. Because there are quite a number of challenges that we've all got at the moment. So I suppose it's to try and avoid a negative kind of slant on things.
Yeah, absolutely. So not let them turn into moaning sessions. It's very straightforward.
So that's the challenge for the facilitator. Keep both the energy up for the focus of those. Okay.
Absolutely.
Any others to Karen's point? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. So the only one we can get so far is not to take the action learner set into a bonus session. And I think
we can take the master classes into that.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so what we've tried to do there is, you know, co-develop with you, you know, those expectations to set your session off on the 18th in a significant way.
Yeah, now I'd be looking for you to, if there's anything that, you know, you comes to mind, or even during things, then actually, you know what, that is either irritating or it's not really working, or, you know, probably should have had that as a ground rule or something like that. In the spirit of openness, do share that and try and be as honest as possible as you can about, what works really.
Absolutely.
What doesn't work.
Okay. Okay, colleagues. Well, I think we're drawing to a close. Hopefully, it's been a helpful sort of start to the journey to excellence. This is something that we wanted to sort of illustrate in action, and hopefully, people will move on, with that. But can I, just before we draw to a close, is there anything anyone wants to say that you don't feel they've had an opportunity to? And I'm just going to do a quick round robin just to check. So, Alex, is there anything you wanted to say that you haven't had an opportunity to?
No, thanks. Just looking forward to it now.
Okay, Alex, thank you. Christine?
No, I'm really looking forward to it, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Fiona?
No, nothing to add. It looks great. Thanks.
Great. Jane?
No, nothing from me. So see everybody on the 18th.
Fantastic. Karen?
No, I don't think so. Just looking forward to put voices to faces, really.
There you go. Absolutely. Michelle?
I have nothing to add. Like everyone else has said, I'm looking forward to the 18th.
Great. Okay. Peter?
No, Mike, nothing to add. Just say everybody on the 18th.
Okay. Stephen?
Same here, Mike. Yes, see everyone on the 18th. Nothing to add.
Okay. And he's as good looking as his voice is, apparently. Tracy?
No, ditto everybody. See you all on the 18th.
Okay. Vanessa?
Nothing to add now. Looking forward to meeting everyone.
Okay. And Hayley?
No, nothing to add really. Just the only thing is just to send apologies on behalf of my colleague Jackie Kelly for today. She was intending to come to this webinar, but she's been held up in a meeting which clearly has gone on for a bit longer than planned.
Okay.
So she will be available on the 18th as well.
Okay. So Hayley, we'll have to leave you the personal task of, going through the highlights with Jackie.
I will indeed.
And obviously sharing the presentation. And she's more than able to come back and add to any dialogue if she so feels.
All right, that's great. I'll pass that on. Yeah, thank you.
And last but not least, Janet.
No, ditto for everybody. Just looking forward to it now. And
all right.
yeah.
Okay, well the 18th won't be too far away. That's for sure. As another little thing to help on the way, we would be really grateful if you just took, and it literally should only be 2 minutes, just to complete this first line of the questionnaire following this event. Angela Delia has been tracking the evaluation for the whole 3 cohorts, and this is one of the deliberate points at which we're capturing some initial feedback. So if you could please set yourself the personal task that you will complete, if not by the end of today, by the end of tomorrow, specifically, that short online questionnaire, would be delighted. And on behalf of Lars, Hazar and Chris, really thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks.
Mike, just before you go, you will be sending the presentation, will you?
We will indeed, yes, because that, absolutely,
mine went down.
That will have the link, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you sending the questionnaire? Did you say?
And you'll get the presentation which has the link to the questionnaire. So that's where you'll access it from.
On the last slide.
Last slide. As you can see now, and Azar is also just going to make sure you get the strategic plan that was initially issued earlier in the year. Okay. Take care, folks. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.